Welcome to episode 46 of Out of Bounds, a podcast where I give my social commentary on different topics in today's society. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking about sex, which is a very large conversation with a lot of different factors to it. But I want to start it off with this question. Where does sex sit in our society? Where is it situated in, our mindset? And for me personally, that answer is in the house of power. That's the category that I would put it in, and that we look at sex as a tool of measuring value and worth and kind of validation. We'll get into that a little later. So with that in mind, kind of starting from the beginning, well, how do we look at it from a young age? How we taught, what are we told? And for the most part, of course, every household is different. But by and large, most people are shielded from sex. They're sheltered away from that at a young age. And there is a back and forth between whether people think the right way is to shield younger people or to gradually educate them and let them know. And of course, everybody's going to parent in a different way. There's certain things that are illegal, of course, but for the most part, people have free range on how they want to do that. But I think as a society, we take the route of just trying to ignore it until a certain age. And a lot of parents will just kind of leave it up to the schools to educate them. And, around fifth grade, fourth grade, you start having the puberty talk and all that. And, I don't know if they show videos still or what they do, but we all kind of went through that. But what people have to realize, especially now with the internet, but even, before, not internet, but, with social media, but even before social media, especially in public schools where you have like the regular neighborhood kids, a lot of people learn stuff at school from people who are exposed to it and you're not. And so whether the school is giving a formal presentation about the information, you're learning every day. You're going to school, you're hearing things, you're seeing things now, especially with, I couldn't even imagine like being in fifth grade or younger and people have phones. Even if you don't have a phone, somebody's got a phone and they got Snapchat and they got access to anything else that they want to look at. And so it's just absolutely going on whether you want to shield your child from it or not, and unless you have them homeschooled and completely shelter them. So we're taught that it's just this bad thing. It's this taboo thing that's not for you to know about. That's grown folks' business. But at the same time, everybody understands that people are learning about it because you're curious. We're naturally curious as humans about everything around us, but our bodies as well. And I personally think it's that natural human tendency. When someone tells you, no, don't look over here, that's what you want to go look for. And so kind of by making it so taboo for younger kids, we kind of simultaneously make it more curious and make them want to seek it out more. And so as a young kid, for me, I feel like it was different for me, but I still definitely had that curiosity, I think at a much younger age than most people, but you still had that curiosity. And again, it's just like you watching a movie, close your eyes. Oh, what am I not supposed to look at? What am I not supposed to hear? And then you get around school with people who did see stuff or whatever. And that's just kind of how you learn. And then we're all learning together. And so I think a funny example is the current movie that's out, The Good Boys, which I love. It was hilarious. But kind of modern day age is where it's like, no matter the information they got and access that you're around the stuff, they're still kids and they don't know exactly what it means. And so you're just trying to find out by your own investigation. You're trying to find out with your friends and all that. And so then, of course, you get to the age where you hit puberty and then it becomes more explicit in an attempt to give you information to help you make good decisions. But then that's when the curiosity just busts wide open. And then the hormones, the biology plays a part in that too. Because now you kind of know what it is, and now you know what you got, and now you got to go out and compare and figure it out. So by and large, I think at a young age in our adolescence, it's just this game of cat and mouse where it's like, no, you can't know about this. So you're chasing around information. And then I think that's what leads into the point where you start to want to explore. And it's going to be different for everybody, of course, their level of comfortability and all those different things. But I think most people get to that puberty age and they want to explore, either explore themselves or explore with other people. And so it is very much this not research project, but like, this scientific experiment. You got hypothesis, you got ideas about what certain things are, and then you're just going out trying to figure it out. And then you transition, even in high school, but as you get older, you transition into a point where sex is more about a pecking order. It's more about power. And that's what we've been told in society. Not that it really should be, but that's what we've been told in our society. For example, one of the classic stereotypes or thought process that we still have to this day is like, you talk about nerd and being cool. So nerd is fine. Like that's like a positive thing, I guess now, because that's just the society we live in. But still, when you talk about nerd or being cool, one of the things that'll come up is be like, oh yeah, I was a nerd in high school. I didn't get any girls, or I didn't get any guys. I didn't have any sex. Or they'll be like, oh, don't act like you were popular. Don't act like you was getting all the girls or having sex every day. And so without even thinking about it or understanding it, we equate popularity to having sex. And so the fact of the matter is, you can know everybody in your class. You can know a lot of teachers. You can be well liked. You could be a star athlete and not partake in sex. That can happen. You can be what they call a nerd, or into things that are nerdy, and have a girlfriend and have sex with her every single day, or vice versa. It doesn't, and so it really does not equate to your popularity. And so when you really break that down and understand, well, what is the message being sent there? The message being sent is the same message that happens in after high school, whether you're in college, especially if you're in college, but wherever you are as a young adult, and then the same thing that happens in adulthood. The message is that if I'm having sex, that shows that I'm desirable. And some people never really connect those two. And it's not even having sex. It's people want to have sex with me. That means that I'm attractive. I'm desirable. People are saying that they want what I have. And for some people, we know they get off on that, or, that really is enough to kind of make them feel good. It goes back to that ugly word that I talked about before. That's validation. And so when we are just living life, we're being who we are, and we want to know, well, am I hot? Am I ugly? Am I cute? Am I sexy? Like whatever. The only real way that we are taught and learn to get that information is by what other people do and react towards us. And so, again, we were kind of taught at that early age that you equate your desirability and your attraction to the people that want to have sex with you. And so that in itself creates a whole different ball game, because again, you talk about being young and just being this process. It's this hormones in the body. It's, another gender's body. It's, your body compared to other people's body. It's just this exploration, this idea of trying to figure out information. And then it quickly turns into a social construct where it's used, like I said, for pecking order and for a ranking order of how you stack up against everybody else. And so once you get pushed through that, the rest of your life, that changes all the perceptions. So the bio part, the hormones and all that, that's still there. All that's still there. But now in your mind, you have changed the action and the process into something that's more about social, capital. And so in our society, as I said, I think it falls into the house of power. When you're talking about where we value sex, especially in adulthood, so 24 and older, where is sex put on that scale of this is what shows that you have whatever it is, power, money, again, desirability. And it doesn't really matter if you are desirable or not. At that point, it's about conquest. It's about conquer. It's about I show that I can get that because everybody wants that. And even if I don't want it, that's what shows that I'm whatever. I'm powerful. I'm successful. Who knows? And so you talk about another movie that's currently out, Hustlers, with Jennifer Lopez, about strippers and all that. And it was a good look it was a female perspective look at the men and kind of how they equated, the time with strippers to their ego. And that's true not just for strippers, but for a lot of different things. But with sex, that is what it can come down to. It can come down to, look, I got this money. She wants to have sex with me or do whatever. Whether I'm, sexy or not, doesn't matter. I got money. I got to do it. It's all about, again, power. Do I have the power to get the things that I want or that we as a society deem we should want? You might have somebody that's not even into sex, but that is kind of the sign and signal that you have the power. And so it's not everybody, but it's a lot of different people. I mean, strip clubs in itself is this idea that 100% that it's not genuine, but you want to have that false sense of power, of control, of desirability. Oh, I got money. I'm going to go in here and throw money around, make them do things. And it is a really false concept that kind of sets up, I think, an unhealthy view of how we look and talk about sex. So from all that, like I said, I think it's about power for a lot of people. Well, what else could it be? And I think you go back to that first natural curiosity. Sex is never, for the mainstream, is never about pleasure. It's never about, satisfaction. Of course, when you're actually talking about sex and the actual mechanics of what you like and how you do things, then there's a conversation there. But for the most part, that's not how it gets initiated. That's not what it started about. And that's why we lose so much in it. So you get into a society that is just kind of contradictory. It's kind of weird how you will have sex everywhere. Like I said, strip clubs, sex sales, as they say in marketing. They want to show people, I guess, with what we consider hot bodies, fit bodies. They want to show people in those different, skimpy clothes or whatever, or they want to get models for this, or they want to have shows that show people doing scandalous sex things. Like, sex sells. That's the mantra. We see it everywhere, younger and younger. As I said, kids have access to it. It's everywhere. And at the same time, we as a society are so taboo with actual sex. Again, this idea of a good time, of, fulfilling fantasies, feeling powerful, that sex is selling. But when we're talking about actual sex, you're talking about likes and dislikes. You're talking about different kinks. You're talking about exploring, your own sexuality in different terms. A lot of that is taboo still, and is looked down upon. There's some movements now, about being promiscuous or having sexual appetites, slut walk, all these different things, sex workers, like people want to empower people to have healthy sex lives, but at the exact same time, we still condemn the exploration of sex outside of the traditional. And so I had this conversation a couple times, but understand that the idea of sex being taboo or like non-normal sex, so like kinky stuff, that stuff comes from a very old idea of to desire things outside of the normal. So a man with a man, woman with a woman, or with multiple people, or anything that's outside of normal reproduction stuff. That was a sign of, spiritual disturbance or a lack of spiritual integrity. And then that moved into a point where it became a sign of medical disturbance, that to want these different type of sex was a mental issue. It was a sign of mental perversion, as they, that's what it comes from, being perverted, and that you are looking for something outside of the normal. And so that stigma has carried through our society, where you get to a point where if somebody says, whatever, normal life or whatever we consider normal life, but I really have an attraction to socks. Like, I want you to wear socks when we have sex or whatever. And then it's like, well, what is wrong with that person mentally? That's the first way that people look at it. And so it's not like it's not happening. Everybody has their own kinks. But we aren't taught to explore that. And we still are taught that that means that you're abnormal, something's wrong with you. So in a society where sex is everywhere, sex is selling, people are thinking about sex in terms of, validating their own personal being. We still don't look at it into this way of pleasure and this way of, having a sexual appetite, because to have those things are still considered underground. And that's kind of the backwards ideals that we have in our society. And that's why I said sex to me is housed with power, because it's not about, sexual freedom. It's not about a physical release. It's not about anything of the actual body. It's all about this mental idea of how do I feed my social ego. And so I think when we, think about a lot of stuff with sex, it does fall into different categories, because sex does drive some very ugly results, not only in this country, but especially in other countries. We all know about sex trafficking and everything else. But again, that falls to the social side. And then I think there's a conversation about the actual physical side, where if we were to encourage people to be more, explorative into what they like, I think we would get further, because you have people that just aren't compatible sometimes, but they won't ever, see it as a reason to not be together or to explore something different, because it's just sex. It's not supposed to be more than just, this thing. But it is a big part of relationships. It's going to be a bigger part for some people than it is others. We know there's people with different sex drives. It's all, biology. It's some people that's asexual. That's what it is. But for a lot of relationships, it is going to mean something. And so I think personally, a lot of people, especially a lot of people that are narrow-minded, intolerant, they never really explored themselves. They never really had an opportunity or encouragement to understand what type of things they like. And I think when the people I know that have explored into these different kinks, have explored into, the different styles that they might like, I think it makes it easier for you to understand other people's kinks, because there's definitely things that I don't like or that you might not like. But since you know your own little quirks and, things, you say, I don't like what you like, but I understand that it's real that you like it. And I think that's, what are you talking about, mental health or all types of things? It comes down to this, I can't feel what you're feeling, so it must not be real. I can't, physically touch it or anything like that, so it must not be real. But the fact of the matter is, if you got your own thing, like, yeah, this one thing really sets me off, then you could understand how somebody else could have that feeling about a different thing. And you could be more open to it. So, but once again, two different conversations, I think, that both can be explored more, because everybody, it is the topic. It's everywhere. I mean, the fact is, anything that mentions sex or has some imagery of sex on like these YouTube podcasts or anything, that's going to have more views than other things. You just mention the word sex and people want to kind of show up because that's what they're searching for, it's they're looking for. Always curious or always feeling the need that they need to be a part of that conversation. So anyway, there's a lot more to talk about, but I'm going to wrap it up there. So go down comment section. Let me know your thoughts on kind of what I was talking about, the idea of sex and how sex plays out in our society today. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and until next episode.